All right, everybody, back out in the garage today. Got a bunch of stuff done. I pulled the plastic off of this. It came out pretty good. I'll get this firewall cleaned up a little bit better. It's actually not too bad a shape. I'll get this repainted properly, repaint these. A lot of little stuff. Right now, the project for today that I'm going to try to concentrate on, I got a light on here, so apologize if it keeps changing colors. I'm going to work on replacing these motors and redoing these brackets. So these were the original brackets that came with the car, and I modified them to work with these motors to run the Hideaway headlights. But as you can see on that one over there, my little modification failed. The bracket came off and loose. Really wasn't designed for this. So I'm gonna redo that, rethink the project a little bit. It worked for a while, and then I had some problems with things binding and coming loose. So we'll redo it, make it work proper. I'm gonna probably go pick up a metal bracket or something. I'm sure I can find something at the hardware store, and then we'll get to work on it, get this apart, and see what we can come up with. So this is the old motor. You can see I painted it black on the side that normally faced out, so that it wouldn't show up through the grill as easily. Anyway, I made a pin here to push the mechanism up and down. I had it mounted on the bottom on those on the original brackets. I had like a pin through here and a retainer, and well, the brackets just weren't reinforced like they should be, and everything kind of moved. So I'm going to reinforce it. What happened is it came loose one time, and actually one of the motors is shorted out now. It overloaded the motor, burnt it out. I had way too large of a fuse in there, and yeah, burnt out the motor. But these were really slow too. It took about, I think it took like 8 to 10 seconds for the motors to open. I had bought kind of the wrong motors. So I bought these now. These are new. I already painted this. You can see the one spot that I didn't paint right here on the top around the label. But I already painted these a little while back, a little dusty. But these are ready to go. Basically, it's the exact same motor, except it has a different gearing inside and will go a lot faster. So I definitely want to make sure that I have it considerably more rigid. So that's 50 millimeters per second. These were 5 millimeters per second. So yeah, it'll be 10 times faster. So literally 50 millimeters, and this is a, I think 100, well, the stroke is 50 millimeters. What was the stroke on this other one? Stroke was 50 millimeters. So basically really close to 2 inches. So instead of taking 10 seconds to open, it should literally open in 1 second. So that should be really nice. So what I'm trying to work on right now, and kind of show you here. Not a lot of light again. I still haven't got a light. All right, so I figured out a way to make my lights work. I have the one on the car that is already hooked up and working. Let me show you this one real quick. All right, so this is basically the same setup I had before, except my bracketing is a little more robust. The other one I had kind of fell apart. Anyway, so it is open right now, and this is all set up on a relay system, so when you turn headlights on, the headlight doors open, and when you shut them off, they would do this. Okay? And it's a linear actuator, so it has an automatically self-limiting switch. So here we go back the other way. It's a 50 millimeters per second, so it's a 1 second open and shut. So it's about 1 second. So anyway, I'm going to show you the bracketing system. Then I'll put some description to show you how I did the relays. It's actually pretty simple how they work. So there we go. And yeah, it took me a little bit to figure it out because, like I say, the last time I did it, the way I did the brackets, they actually fell apart and it jammed the motor and the motor shorted out. So definitely my fault on that. But now that I figured out a way, I'm going to do the second one. I'll take some pictures and some video of myself as I do that. And then you'll be able to do this. It costs about $100 total for all the hardware. All right, so back to this bracket. So the first thing we have to do is the bracket needs to be bent just in front of these two holes that are in the bracket, this hole and this hole. Ignore some of these other holes. These are from my other iterations of my attempts. So anyway, these are the original brackets. This happens to be the one from the passenger side, so that they're, you know, the one on this side has a bracket here, the other one has a bracket over here, but you bend it in the same spot. It's pretty much even across here, and we're going to bend it just in front of this hole. In order to do that, I actually took and I ground the bracket off right here, so it was kind of even, so it would be easier to bend. So I'm going to grind this real quick, and then we'll put it in the vise and give her a bend. I'm going to do pretty much a 90-degree bend on this. We're going to bend it down. Okay? All right, so all I'm going to do is going to bend this down. Just going to give that a wallop. Anybody's been following me, I found my hammer. It was out in the shed after I had done a project out in the yard. I don't know why I left it in there, but my 2-pound hammer and my, which is a 3-pound hammer, and my rubber mallet were both out there. So I'm very happy now again. Anyway, I've got this in the vise, got these holes right at the top edge of the vise. I'm just going to bend this down 90 degrees. Actually, last time I did this, to make my life easier, I went ahead and put a notch in these with the saw. Forgot about that. So I took this, and notch this down here. Just to take out the rib on the edge. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to cut this groove so it lines up. Same spot as the other side. Oops. What in the world I'm dropping here? All right. Get him back in the vise. Yep. Pretty close. Well, pretty close to a 90. Yeah, it's darn close to a 90 actually. So when you get all done, it's actually going to tilt up a little bit. Oh, hard to see here. Sorry about that. And when you get this done, it's going to be 90 here, but it's going to tilt up a little bit because this part of the bracket is actually kind of, see, it has a little bit of a bend to it, but that's fine. That'll work perfect for what we're going to do. Okay, now we're going to take you need a 2-inch piece of 1x1 aluminum stock. I bought this big piece of stock here when I was planning on doing another project. You can see I've been doing a couple of attempts at this. So about 50 millimeters or 2 inches. And where is my tape measure? Well, I really don't need the tape measure because I know this one's the right length. So we'll cut this one real quick. Cut this guy. Doesn't have to be exact. Should probably have an aluminum blade for this. Go. Whiz those sharp edges off on the grinder real quick. Close enough. So what we're going to do here, you know, I'm going to have to put the camera on the inside of the car again. But what we're going to do is this is going to get screwed onto here. We're just going to use some self-tappers. I'll try those out first. If after a while they come loose, I could always put something more permanent in there. But they seem to hold pretty good. I have 2 of them in there now, maybe a couple more, so that, you know, the self-tappers work good as long as they don't start to move. If they start to move, then they'll definitely come out. But basically, this gets bolted back in the car the way it was. The bottom of the motor gets bolted here, and we drill a hole through the bottom mount hole wherever it happens to line up when we're all done. And that's it. That holds the bottom. The top part's actually the part that I had to figure out, because with the 50 millimeter throw of the motor, it's not the length of the throw isn't adjustable. You can adjust the top head up and down some, so your overall length is different, but the actual length of the movement is set. So the problem with the upper part of linkage, let me get back to that. The one part where the arm is, where you get on the very end of the arm, that's too long. You need more like 3 inches of throw. And the shorter part of the arm, on the inside, you need about 1.5 inches. And so I ended up splitting the difference. I ended up figuring out a way to get make a bolt so that my pivot point is about halfway in between those two, and it ended up actually working out perfect, as you saw on the headlight going up and down over here. It reaches both limits. It pulls the headlight cover down far enough, and it pulls it up far enough to seat and to be into place and to hold it. So let me get all my things together. We'll get this down in place and kind of show you what we're going to do. This just gets bolted back in its original spot. Just use your original bolts. This gets bolted back in the original spot as well. So this, if you could bend this in the car, I suppose you could do it. But it's pretty straightforward. Just take this out, bend it, put it right back. This is going to go back in the exact same spot that it was previously. Let me get the camera set up, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Not sure if I'm going to show you this bottom part first or the rigging I did up on top. Actually worked out pretty good. Let me think on that, and we'll get back to you. All right. So you got the original bracket in here. Put the bolts in there. You got your bolt over here holding it. So you got your bend down. You've got the block in here. Got this bolt that goes through. I'm trying to grab the camera here. Oh, so I can point with my other hand. Here we go. So you've got this bolt goes through, and it's nutted on the back side. I've got to do some work back here because my nut actually runs. See how that runs into my screw on the back side there. So I got to play around a little bit with locations. Haven't decided exactly how I'm going to determine that yet, but there's plenty more spots I can drill. The important thing here I wanted to show you is what I did up on top. So this is the original hole for one of the bolts, and you can see that. And then there's like a nut on the back side of this one, and it's like welded on there or something. And then there's a square hole back here, and I can show you on this one. This one here, the nut came off of, and then it's just got the square hole. So what needed to happen is I needed to be about right here in the middle with my pivot angle in order to have the, to work with these motors. This was, again, too short, and this over here was too long of a stroke. So ended up making a bracket that goes right along in here. And see where I say it does come kind of close to the grill up front. So you want to make sure that it's back far enough. The original arms are, so as long as it's shorter than the arm, you should be okay. So all I did was basically 2 bolts through the bracket, and I kept the heads on this side so it would be, so it doesn't interfere with the arm that goes up and down. This is the arm that goes up and down. You see where it's painted there and where it's not painted, that sucks all the way back inside, all the way up to where the paint is, because I painted it when it was closed apparently. So I actually need to throw a coat of paint on there so when it's actually shut that it doesn't show shiny through the grill. I'll do that before I do the final bolting up here. But what I did here with this other bolt is the head of the bolt is actually behind this bracket. Okay, so I've got it sandwiched. So I've got the head of the bolt is in here, and then the main body comes out to here, and that's the bolt that is right here. So I've got this other just nut in here. That's just a washer for right now. I'll put something else in there, maybe a rubber bushing or something. In fact, because it's a little long, but I was just mocking it up to try to see if I could get it to work. Because I needed to check that sorry for the focus there. I needed to check to make sure that the stroke was correct, and it is. So now I can redo it, put a different washer on there, and whatnot. But I'll make measurements of everything, do the best I can. Maybe I'll put it in the description. I'll include my wiring diagram, how I do the relays, because basically I power the relays from a wire off of the high-low beam switch, because the high-low beam switch only gets power when you have the headlights on. So that way you don't have to go up all the way by the headlight switch. You can wire it in, lift up the carpet, wire it in at the high-low beam switch. Real easy to get to. I'll put the carpet back down and you're good to go. I'm going to run the wire out through the firewall. And that wire just activates the relays. When it has power, it flips the relays. So the motors run, let's say they run in reverse, so that the headlight door is open. And then when you turn off the power, the relays turn off and then get power going the other way. And then the headlight doors close. And because they are self-limiting motors, when they get to the end of their stroke, they turn off. They don't draw any power. Even though there's power to the circuit, there's no power drawn, because once they hit their limit, they're done. There are fuses on the relays. So for something were to go wrong with the motor and it were to draw power, an excessive amount, then you could, it should blow the fuse. So anyway, that is the setup for now, and I will work on this one over here, and I'll take you along, step by step. I just showed you the bracket that I made. Maybe I'll show a little bit more as I mock it up, and I'll I'll bring it back for some more short videos or photos of what's going on. All right, so as previously mentioned, didn't mention that. As previously mentioned, I've got 2 bolts here, and then I've got the 1 bolt sticking out, and it's kind of pinched in there, so I should be able to thread the nut on the end of this. I've got nylocks for that, so that should not come undone. If you don't have nylocks, you can also use some Loctite or double nut it, whatever you need to do. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to crawl in here. I've got the aluminum block made up. I've already got this bent and mounted in here. So I'm going to get this in here, mark approximately where I need to have the hole at, and then we'll get it drilled and we'll get this mounted. I apologize, I really don't have the best system for getting the camera in there close. I'll have to hold it by hand. So you won't get a close-up view of me doing it, but I'll show you the best I can. If I can take it off the stand and show you, I'll do that if I can. I do have another smaller portable one, but there's really nothing to set it on here, so please bear with me. I wanted to mention real quick, this other one I use the aluminum block on. I'm going to use another aluminum one. I'm guessing that after a while, the screws might not hold. You know, I don't drive at night that much, so I'm really not going to be opening and closing the headlights that much. But if they were to get loose over time, you basically take the same piece, go get a 1-inch square piece of steel and use that. Granted, I'm only using self-tappers, but you could use, you know, permanent bolts in aluminum, or you could use permanent bolts in steel. Whatever you need to do to keep it from moving around. These seem to move freely enough. I don't think that's going to be a problem with these. But as mentioned before, I did have that 1 screw that was interfering with the bolt, so I'll have to move that. So, you know, this isn't a, tried and true method. This is the first time that I'm getting it to work. But these little 1-inch square tubes seem to work pretty good. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So I just put a vice grip on this, just to kind of hold it in place. Should be pretty good. I'm going to try to keep the screws as low into the outside as possible. On my car at least, I can reach in here from the valance and get these. And try to see how far over I can go so I can be as far away from the bolt hole as possible. Oh, I gotta go back just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Oops, that didn't work. She's in place now. I need another self-tapper. I'll get one on the other side now, as low as I can. Okay. It's amazing how it looked good from one angle, but from the other, wow, you're like way off. There we go. There we go. She's in there. So then what I'll do now, get my other motor. I've got that one already mocked up. I'll get my other motor here. This is all, I got this all tight already. That side I tightened down as well. But I didn't put the motor back in because I was messing around with the self-tappers. I'll get this one in here and I'll get the top mounted. I still have to figure out exactly how to do the bushing. I think some of you saw I used this big fat nut last time. That didn't work very good. I didn't like that. I used something maybe more like this. Now, put this motor in here. Decide which way I want to face it. It's going to hang off the end there. I did set them to the shortest possible length on here, because as you spin these, they spin out. They have some adjustment before they run out of threads. So you have, you have about, well, what does that look like? Maybe, 10, 15 millimeters at the most. It's in the specs, but I just went down to the tightest, backed it off. Oh, I need my fancy new nut that I made, my little spacer. Slide him on here. And then I'll proceed to drill the hole through here, using this as a template so I know exactly where this needs to sit. This part here is aluminum on the bottom, so do your best not to wallow out the bottom of this mount on the motor. I found it really helpful though when I did it, that I had it sitting right on this edge here, and I'll put the nut on here. The one I'm putting on there right now is not a nylock. I'll probably use some Loctite or something on it. This nut on this thing can't be super tight because it has to be able to spin with it. So I'm gonna figure something out for that. I think that'll work. Yeah, I'll just put some Loctite on it so it can't spin itself off. Again, these electric motors don't get used all that much. I don't drive at night. I know most people that drive their classic cars don't. It's not like it's going to get used, 100 times a day, back and forth, back and forth. No, they should be fine. So I should be able to put some Loctite on there. I can always go with a longer bolt. I think I have some. I don't think this is the same thread though. No, that one's, I'd have to go buy some other bolts. I can go buy another one that's another 1/4 of an inch longer. Yeah, I might have to buy one that's a little bit longer so I can either double nut that or I'd like to put some washers in between. Well, I already got basically a washer on this side. I'd like to get a washer on this side and either nylock this or put some thread locker on it. So that'll be good enough for now though, because I know where I can drill the hole now because I know exactly where the hole has to be. So let's go ahead and get in here and get this hole drilled. Okay. So I have the correct drill here, and I'm just going to drill through this best I can. Like I said, I'm going to do my best not to mess up the bottom part of this motor. Pretty sure this is the way I want it to face because it'll be out of the way. If you put the solenoid over here, you could run into problems. I've got plenty of room over here, nothing else in the way. So I might as well have it facing that direction. Same thing with this one. I mounted it facing this way. I think I mounted it this way. I can't remember which way I did it. Actually, I think I did this one this way because the wire comes out. The other way the wire pinches in here or whatever. But this should work just fine. All right, let's get this mounted in here flat as I can. Whoops. She's working. Oh boy, she's kind of in the top of that, isn't it? be good enough. It's got to get the bolt all the way through the aluminum is all that matters. It's just holding it in place. There we go. So, not the prettiest, but it works. So, that'll work just fine. Put this bolt in here. Don't even have to, I'm not even gonna tighten anything down. Let me grab the battery charger, put it on these leads, and see how well this opens and shuts. Maybe I'll put a nut on the back side here, just for good measure, so she don't pop out. And to see if I clear my, I don't think that's even the right nut for that. Oh, it is. But I'm not clearing my screws on the back side. I can tell you that right now. This one ended up being way over to the one side for some reason. Again, it shouldn't really matter. I'll put a couple more screws over here. For what little torque that gets, it should be fine. All right, let me hop out, get the battery charger hooked up. All right, so let's try this out. Oh, wires way over here. Okay. Yeah, that's one direction. And here's the other. Okay, might have to play with that a little bit. Let's see if she goes back the other way. Okay, she reached full lock that way. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this amount that I'm off here, kind of a small amount, I can adjust that by spinning. The that top out. Let me do that real quick by hand here. This should work just fine. Now, if it doesn't, I'll play around with the bracket a little bit. Nothing that I couldn't bend. Okay. There we go. Works perfect. Again, I'll play around with the bracket. I've got to put a couple more screws down in here. But that should work good. That's all I did. Pretty simple. There's not much to it. It's not super high tech. It's something you'll never see. But now they're not vacuum anymore. The vacuum modulators that I had were completely shot. So there was no way those things were going to work. So the first year that I got the car, I crawled under it and I put in this electric motors. The other set, like I said, had such a hokey bracket system that it came loose, the motor's jammed. I had too high of a fuse in there and I burnt the poor motor out. They'll handle some abuse, but you know, they won't handle full load indefinitely. So yeah, I messed up the motor. That's how I did my electric headlight motors. Yeah, it might look a little hokey. I'll spray paint it black. Nobody will ever see any of that when it's all said and done. It's all behind the grill. The part of the motor that's sticking out that's silver. I mean, I could paint that black if I wanted to. I'll see. It really wouldn't hurt anything if I painted it. So anyhow, again, I'll include a wiring diagram. If anybody has any questions or concerns, send me a chat. Send me an email. I'll be more than happy to answer your question. I've done this twice now. Like I said, the first time the brackets were kind of hokey, and that was my own fault. They jammed up the motor, burned it out because I had I think I had a 25 or 30 amp fuse in there. And yeah, I should have had it, you know, a 5 amp fuse. This charger only provides 6 amps and it's not struggling at all to power those motors. If it would, that means something's jammed and you probably shouldn't be pushing it. Should be popping the fuse. Anyway, thanks for everybody. Sorry it's been so long since I had a complete video. Been almost a month. I think it's longer than a month for an actual video. I just think I had another video that says, hey, I'm working on stuff, but Anyway, I've got a bunch of projects I'm finishing up here. I'm hoping to have a few more videos out in the next week, but we'll see. We'll see what life throws at us. Been spending a lot of time with my granddaughters and working on stuff around the house that isn't necessarily worthy of filming. Some of it is, and I have some more content, but I want to make sure that it's good content. I'm not just going to post everything I'm doing. I'm not that interesting. I want to make sure that I have stuff that you guys can learn from and enjoy. Thanks again, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.